Buddy Martin, the program. It's the Buddy Martin Show. Glad to be with you again. It's football season, counting down the days, soon to be a third over. I can't believe it's going this fast. Tonight on the program, special treat to outstanding guests who know a lot about football, especially the SEC, and especially things we're going to talk about tonight. We've got Tony Barnhart, Mr. College Football, along with John Adams of the Knoxville News Sentinel, who's covered Tennessee football since the beginning of mankind. And we got David Moulton, who kind of brings it all. It's going to be a good show. Come and join us. The Buddy Martin Show is on the air. Tell your friends and neighbors right now.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Hey, hello, welcome to the program. It's a big game. We can you smell it in the air? It's all the way up in Knoxville, but it is a big game. And given what I've been reading by all you critics out there, which you've been harping away at now since Monday, the Florida Gators have zero chance of winning this game. That's what you're saying in all the message boards, except for a few of you orange and blue bloods. Florida Gators, 10.5-point underdogs, got no chance. Tennessee is going to wipe up Neyland Stadium with his football team. Not going to beat them, just going to beat them down. Got no chance. Anthony Richardson will be out of the game. The defense will give up 100 points. I mean, the gloom and doom is everywhere. This team has got no chance. It's not exactly what they're thinking up in Gainesville. And the Mama will have an injury report from the head coach himself. Maybe a little bit of good news, but we'll see. Meanwhile, we've got content to deliver here. Got things to tell you about on the program. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about, first of all, let's tell you about this Grow Tower deal. I've been talking to you about it for quite some time. This is something you want to investigate, all right? Because if you want to make a difference, what happens that day comes, and I want to be one of these conspiracy theorists, when maybe you can't get your food, or at least the supply lines are broken, and they're broken more. You can't get, say, fresh greens. Well, this is a company that allows you to grow your own fresh greens, Grow Tower. And if you go to, I'm told now, Laurie said, if you go to my site, buddytower.com, and check out the information. I'm told there's some specials on this thing right now where you can get in for a reduced price. You can have your own Grow Tower like I've got here, and be able to enjoy fresh greens and food. So check it out, and I encourage you to at least look at it, because there's some good things going on right there with the Grow Tower. I'm going to tell you all about it tonight. So we'll tell you more about it later, but this is it. This is what the tower looks like. This is indoor. You can get them outdoors. And then you can convert your food into this. There's one of Laurie's favorite dishes she made tonight. Grow Tower dish right there. It's one of the things you can make with it. She's got her little thing going there. I make mine. I've got a variety of recipes I use. It's really delicious. And it's farm to table, and it's opportunity for you to be able to take care of your own production if it comes down to it. It's a good feeling to know that you got something growing that's edible and healthy. So check it out, buddytowers.com, and check out those specials and see what you think. If you have any questions, DM me. I'll try to get back to you and tell you. All right, that's that. As we jump right into the fray, as they say, let's go talk to Mr. College Football and see what he has to say about, well, this week in this game and what's going on. What does he think about this game? First time in a long time that the Gators have been double-digit underdogs to Tennessee. And then we'll follow it up with John Adams from the Knoxville News Center in Knoxville, who's got his thoughts about it. Here's Mr. College Football. Well, we waited and waited and waited for it, and it's here, and now it's going to be over, at least by third. Coming up here in a couple of days, Tony Barnhart, Mr. College Football. I know nobody loves it more than he does. Tony, good evening to you, and let's enjoy the rest of this football season.
Well, buddy, when you get to be our age and you've done it as long as we've done it, we learn, hey, it goes by in a hurry, as does the years that go by in a hurry. So make sure you take time to smell the roses.
Absolutely. In the case of the Georgia Bulldog fans, and I know you're one, but you like college football in general, and you have a pretty global perspective of it. It's, I'll say what I said back in 2008 to my guys at breakfast at 2 o'clock in the morning after Florida beat Oklahoma for another national championship. Enjoy it while you got it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Enjoy it. And make sure to enjoy it while you're going through it.
Exactly.
Okay? Enjoy the journey.
Yeah,
those
for sure.
Are not cliches. The thing about it is, buddy, you have to get a little bit older until you can really appreciate those kind of things. And, it just and have fun and enjoy the ride.
Mm-hmm. How many times have we read and heard athletes who said, I got into the Super Bowl my rookie season. I thought, this is great. We'll be here all the time, and they never went back.
Dan Marino.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
you can't assume that you're ever going to be. We thought. Remember, we thought Florida was going to win SEC championships forever.
It looked that way.
They're going to win them again, and Florida's going to be just fine. But enjoy it while you're going through it.
Well, as long as we're there on that subject, let's discuss that. There's a real dark mode among Gator fans this week. You know how fans shift back and forth.
Yeah.
Naturally, they grasp at every little thing. And there's reason to be concerned because Anthony Richardson hasn't played up to his capabilities. There's also many conspiracy theories about the play calling, the injury, and what have you. But from your position, and you are very good at analyzing other programs, and you followed Florida, I know they're 2.5 point underdogs for the first time in, a million years. What's your advice to Gator fans, and what do you see, and what do you think could or would happen on Saturday night?
Well, first of all,
or afternoon. I'm sorry.
First of all of us, I'll include myself on that, overreacted to Florida's win over Utah. It was a good win, really good win, okay? But we had Anthony Richardson going to the Heisman Trophy presentation in New York, okay? And we didn't look around and say, how much football has Anthony actually played? So I think you got to be patient with him. He's very, very talented. He's going to be a very good quarterback in this league, but he hasn't played a whole lot, and there's decision making that goes along with it. I think Anthony Richardson's going to be fine. I don't know about this year. The guy, he's got to learn to play the position, and I think the Gators are going to be okay. But I don't know right now because Tennessee has a very consistent quarterback, and in this league, if you have a consistent quarterback, you've got a built-in advantage. And so I'm kind of anxious to see how this game turns out. That's a lot of points, but Tennessee is at home, and they're a little bit, shall we say, excited.
106,000 of them are going to be excited. Let me just put it in perspective from several viewpoints. First of all, let's be real about this. We know Anthony is struggling, and who ever thought we'd hear someone say, to win the game against Tennessee, Florida has to run the ball and play defense. Huh? What team is that?
Yeah, exactly. And remember, back in the day, usually, I think most of the time, the team that ran the ball the best won this game. Back when both teams were consistently in the top 10. So yeah, I think, and if you're Florida, you want to run the ball, you want to control the clock, you want to make your defense make some big plays and keep their offense off the field. You don't want them out there for 35, 40 minutes. You want to control you want to control the best way to control their offense is keep them sitting on the sidelines, and I'm anxious to see if Florida can do that.
Yeah, I think we all are. And although they have two running backs that look, or three that look really good actually, and people are hopeful this, and Osiris Torrance, the offensive lineman, who's been stellar, and the defense has had its moments, but basically they got pushed around at times, even against South Florida. Let me present this scenario. Drilling down on these two teams and look at them. I mean, Hendon Hooker's numbers are off the charts. He's only ever thrown 3 interceptions, and since he starting, he threw 2, and he's had 42 touchdown passes. Oh, wow. Can you believe that, Tony? Wow. But having said that, let's be real. Who did they beat? Akron, right? Not a great team. Ball State, not a great team. Pittsburgh, yes, good team. They beat them in overtime. So in reality, when you start putting numbers up there, and Florida didn't play great against USF, but it did win the game. The bottom line is that Florida played ranked opponents, and so those numbers are different. They skew when you say Tennessee's got the number 1 defense in the SEC. Yeah, who they played.
Yeah. Well, Tennessee's defense is better, but Tennessee's defense is nothing special right now. Now, compared to last year, they weren't very good at all on defense. And so I'm kind of anxious to see how they're going to play. But, yeah, all these numbers, Bill, buddy, you always have to put in the context of who they played. And Tennessee's got one quality win, and that's against Pittsburgh. And Florida's got a great win. I still think Utah's going to win the Pac-12, or Utah's going to certainly play for the Pac-12. A lot of people like USC. My point is that Utah is a very good football team, and that's a big win for the Gators.
And it's been kind of devalued since then, which it shouldn't have been. But again, we know why. All right, so here's the deal. I want to get to this, and I want to talk to you about the Bulldogs a little bit. I heard Brady Quinn say he played in Neyland, and he said he never heard a crowd so loud. Now, I get that, and 106,000 is a lot of people, and they are loud. But Brady Quinn has never played in the Swamp. He never played in Death Valley. He never played in Sanford Stadium. He never played in Bryant-Denny. So what can he say about that?
Yeah, well, you have to have been some of these places. I guarantee you one of the loudest stadiums I ever heard was a 1993 game between Florida and Florida State at the Swamp. That was one of the loudest.
Might still be the loudest, yeah.
And one of the loudest stadiums I have been in has been Tiger Stadium in 2007 in that game. That game was one of the loudest I've ever heard. Yeah. So, yeah, there's a lot of loud stadiums all over the place. Neyland, my memory of Neyland is the 1998 game. At the end of the game where Collins Cooper missed a field goal and the Tennessee ended up winning. I mean, I was still in the press box, and the press box was shaking. It was so loud.
Yeah. Well, they do have loud stadiums in the SEC. I don't think Brady Quinn qualifies as an expert on that. So, I read your column about the Alabama-Georgia comparison. Obviously, the Bulldogs now look like they're the team. They've eclipsed Alabama in the polls, and also they've become the darling of the which doesn't mean much, by the way, of the media, and justifiably so, by the way. You wrote the comparison. You talked about that, and you said then there was Alabama, which is hungry and mad after losing to Georgia in the national championship game last January. Could Georgia hang with a Nick Saban team that is so motivated? Put it all together, and Georgia looked like a very good team, but maybe not quite good enough to win another national championship. Do you stick to that?
I think ultimately, as I finished up, they are capable of winning another national championship. What I didn't want to do is completely overreact to Georgia. And they looked really good in the first few games. I'm anxious to see what they do in some of these other outposts. The schedule's set up nicely for them. The point that I was making, buddy, was that this Georgia team appears to have more ways, more weapons they can beat you with. Now they didn't need very many weapons last year because they were so good defensively, but they've been good. This team's been good defensively. I just think this Georgia team might have more going for it. We'll see. We'll see how when the game's played, but I think you can make the case that this Georgia team is more explosive than last year's Georgia.
Tony, you and me and Stetson Bennett and the tight end room could go out there and beat most teams. And the athletes that get that tight end room, amazing.
He's a matchup nightmare for everybody. I talked to Todd Blackledge yesterday, and he said, the issue is you can't cover him with a defensive back. He's too big. You can't cover him with a linebacker. He's too fast. And if if you give him the ball in space, he can outrun just about anybody. He is absolutely one of the best tight ends I've ever seen. And
I'm a huge fan of Brock Bowers ever since I saw him the first. But you got others in that room that are pretty good too.
Yeah, well, it's probably the best tight end room in the country.
Easily.
So, but here's the thing. All right, if you've got them, do you know how to use them? And thus far, Todd Monken has showed the ability to dial up plays to take advantage of Brock Bowers' unique skill set. And right now, you mentioned Stetson Bennett. Stetson Bennett's playing the best football of his career. Yeah. He's playing better than he was a year ago when he played so well in the national championship game. So it's going to be interesting. I was talking to my boys about Jacksonville. I can't wait to get to Jacksonville.
Yeah, tell us about that because you love that. I love the story about you and your buddies. You and I are like, we got to have this game in Jacksonville. You cannot move us out of Jacksonville. You don't understand. It's not just a football game. It's like having Christmas or something, Talk about your friends that meet there every year, and what are you going to do about these guys trying to move this game out of Jacksonville?
Well, first of all, I'm already on record. I wrote a column about that when it first came up. And I don't quite understand Coach Kirby Smart's point about recruiting because I think, if I'm not mistaken, they've done pretty well in recruiting the last 4
I would say
years.
so.
I don't think taking one game out of Jacksonville is going to make a difference in how you recruit. The other thing is the tradition of Jacksonville, the relationships in Jacksonville. That's stuff you just we're having to give up a lot as college football fans.
Really,
right now with everything that's changing, and we're going to still give up a lot more. And this is just one of those things that it means too much for me and my friends to go down there, and we look forward to the whole weekend. And buddy, we may or may not go to the game. I don't know.
You're having so much fun, you might be watching it on TV.
That's right. So.
Yeah, and by the way, I talked to your friend of mine, Lauren Smith, about this at length a couple of weeks ago. And he made a point, and he said the thing about Kirby is he feels a tremendous sense of loyalty to the merchants and people in Athens. Well, and I get that. But here's the other point. Now Georgia fans get 40,000 seats every year. When it goes home and home, they get 5,000. Mm-hmm. How they gonna like that?
Yeah, they're not gonna like that at all, and that's something that needs to be pointed. All you folks are used to following Georgia play when Georgia's on the road playing Florida. Mm-hmm. They give you 5,000 tickets in Gainesville.
Yeah, good luck on that. Yeah,
good. I think you better think about these things.
Yeah, be different. So, final thoughts about college football. It started off wacky. We had the App States and Marshalls and what have you, and we moaned about the NIL all summer. You and I did, and transfer portal, whatever. But we both said ultimately it will correct itself. The free market will correct it. It will correct itself. Do you think that's happening? And where do you think we are now? And where will we be at the end of this season in terms of all this stuff has to be dealt with and resolved?
Well, the transfer portal fixed itself. They put in 2 windows, which I think we talked about that that's what they were going to do. And now it's not open 365 days a year. And now coaches can manage their schedule better. Now, are you still going to lose players you wish you didn't lose? Yep. Alabama went out and got Georgia Tech's best running back for this season, and now Georgia Tech's getting beat 42-0 by Ole Miss. So that part of it's not going to go away. The NIL, I think it's going to still take a while, buddy. But you know what? We're not really talking about NIL. We don't care. I don't care where the guy gets the money. I wish him the best. Do what he can. Do what he can for him and his family. I don't care where you get the money. Let's just play the games.
So we have a happy Mr. College Football now?
I'm very happy now that the games are starting. Absolutely. Listen, the Appalachian State 2-week celebration has been worth everything in college football.
It's been fun.
You're talking about a team that beats A&M, dominates them at Kyle Field, gets College Game Today on short notice to come to their campus, who looks like the day is going to end on a disappointing note. Then they throw a Hail Mary to beat Troy at the buzzer. I mean, that I've been to Boone a bunch.
Beautiful
And
place.
I'm promising you, it is one of the great party towns on this planet. And they have been celebrating for 2 solid weeks.
Can't blame him for that, and certainly want to listen. We root for the stories, Tony. We love the good stories, so there's
Great
lots
story.
of them out there. And Tony, thanks for all you do and your writing, and tell folks about your column. I just read your last one. Tell them where they can get it and all that.
Well, we got several things going, buddy. We've got on our website, TMG College Sports. It's under the Sports Illustrated umbrella. So you go to si.com/college/TMG. TMG stands for the Media Guides. And me and 3 of my old newspaper buddies have been in business for several years on this. We now do a podcast. I mean, Buddy Martin does them all the time. Why can't I do one? And we have a podcast that we post up on Friday, looking ahead to the weekend, and that's on. That will be on the website. And I do a little personal essay every week. I call "Sweet Tea with Tony B."
I love that sweet tea, and I noticed this with a T and not a TEA, and it's perfect. And Tony B, I love that. Keep doing the good stuff. Love your writing and love your broadcasting. Love having you on the show, Tony. Have another great college football weekend.
Thank you, buddy. You too.
Mr. College Football, Tony Barnhart. Always good to hear from Tony, and we'll always check in with him and see what's going on. Here's a little news. I'm going to give you the information. Give you this now. I'll give you the link, and I get it during the break. This is the merch store, okay? This is Gator Bait. There is some good-looking stuff in here. You see right here. I'll put it full screen. And this is what it looks like. And I don't have Rebecca sending me the link to it. I'm looking at it right now. I think it's Jersey Ink. Anyway, I'll get that. I'll post it. But this is the merchandise. Look at this stuff, man. There's some good-looking shirts, men's and women's. You don't have to necessarily pre-order it. Now the store is open. It's open all the time. And now's the time to get your hats, your shirts. We got some special things. Look at those cups. We got an orange and blue, different kind of T-shirts. So there's what it looks like. We'll get back to this again and show you in a minute the link. I'm sorry I don't have it in front of me at the moment, but I will. If you're interested in getting a hold of some stuff, I've got a few myself. I'm getting one of these black hats. Ordered myself a couple of golf shirts. So, yeah, you're right, Robert. It is sweet stuff. So we'll get that information for you in the next break and get back to you and show you what it is. It's time to gear up. Gators are coming back home and going to be there, and you need to get geared up for it. So, all right, so we're going to do this right now. We're going to hear from our sponsor, Meldon Law, and then we'll go right to our interview with John Adams.
A breaking story, okay?
All right.
So this year, my wife Patricia and I are chair people for the Alzheimer's Association. And Meldon Law was founded in 1971. So for every free throw made this year by both the men's basketball team and women's basketball team, Meldon Law is donating $19.71 to the Alzheimer's Foundation.
Nice. What's the 1971? When you started the law firm?
Yes.
Very good. That's a great story and a great idea. And it couldn't be for a better cause, because we know how devastating that disease is to a lot of people and families. Congratulations. I'm proud of you.
Well, thank you, buddy.
All right, yeah. Meldon Law, the official injury law firm of the Florida Gators, and their motto is, "We won't back down." Here's John Adams. Listen up to what he says about it from the Tennessee perspective. Well, John Adams, last time I talked to you about Tennessee, you were not real happy about some things, and Vol fans weren't. But now, who knew we have a rivalry between the Florida Gators and the Tennessee Volunteers? Who knew?
Yeah, it's not exactly a 1990s rivalry, but Tennessee going into the game is a double-digit point favorite is pretty epic. I was trying to figure out when was Tennessee favored by double figures.
Yeah.
I don't know that it ever has been since this thing got cranked up back in when they went to divisions in the SEC in '92.
Apologize, John. I'm going to start again because the phone interrupted
Okay.
between 3 and 2 and 1. Yeah, last time I talked to this guy, Tennessee Vols were struggling. Who knew what they were going to do with their new coach? And it's turned out pretty good for the Vols. And glad to have my friend John Adams back on the program again. John, do we have a rivalry again between Florida and Tennessee?
Well, it almost looks like a role reversal. Tennessee is a double-digit favorite. I can't recall that ever happening since this series got cranked up back in the early '90s when the SEC went to divisional play. So, yeah, this is unusual, but at least the point spread contradicts the history with Florida having won 16 of the last 17 games.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to just take a second. I don't want to bore the young people with history because you know how that is. Anything over 48 hours is history. This is so 1990 stuff we're talking about now. But I just want to get a perspective here real quick. I tell people that one time, the third weekend of the season was not at the premier weekend of SEC football. I'll give it up maybe to Tennessee, Alabama, history, whatever, or Auburn, Alabama. But Florida, Tennessee was a really great rivalry.
Yes, it was. And when divisional play first started, Tennessee and Florida were a cut above everybody else in the division, which created a tremendous amount of pressure. And Florida handled that pressure better than Tennessee in most cases. A tremendous amount of pressure on this early season game. Whoever lost, and Tennessee was the one that lost the most, was really at a disadvantage. It was playing catch up for the rest of the season, trying to overtake the winner in the division. So, and that's when Steve Spurrier back in the '90s, when he won 4 straight, '93 through '97, I guess it was 5 straight. Tennessee it put Tennessee in a difficult position. It won the division in '97 despite losing to Florida, but it just created a lot of pressure. And I think Florida coaches and players handle that pressure better than Tennessee did for the most part.
Much history connection between the University of Florida and Tennessee, and I've read a couple of books, and you have read them about the days of yore when General Neyland was the guy, and he was one of the great coaches in college football history. He had a player named Bob Woodruff who played for him, and later Bob took over as head coach of Florida, like in 1950 or 51, and then they suffered through a year of mediocrity. And another Tennessee player came down here and took his place. Ray Graves had great success and recruited a guy from Tennessee, and Steve Spurrier, and you know the rest of that story. So it's funny how there's intertwining in between the Florida and Tennessee situation. A lot of history there.
Sure, and Spurrier created a lot of that history. I mean, he's the kind of going back to remember Tennessee ran the single wing when Steve Spurrier was coming out, and his skill set didn't fit that. He wasn't a single wing tailback, so he wisely went to Florida, and as you said, the rest is history.
Yeah, I was thinking back about the many games. I don't know if you have one or two that you think of, or maybe not your favorite games. The Gaffney catch in the end zone, which maybe wasn't a catch, when Ron Zook was the coach who won that game. The really bizarre one was 2001 when Steve had one of his best teams, as good as he had. And he had a team that could possibly go all the way. And because of 9/11, as you know, they didn't play that third game. And then Tennessee came late to Florida Field and upset Florida. What was the name of the back that ran for 200 yards?
Travis
Yeah.
Stevens had the game of his life.
Yeah.
And Tennessee's offensive line really dominated that game.
Yeah.
It was Tennessee was a 17.5-point underdog.
Wow.
When that game kicked off. So it was a startling turn of events. It probably would have turned out differently if they would have played as scheduled, but it was both teams were on equal footing, and Tennessee playing in the swamp really dominated the game.
It did.
The final score didn't reflect that. Rex Grossman almost pulled it out in the end. but it was a really good game and one of the more surprising games in the
Yeah,
series.
it was. Let's talk about this year. 16 games ago, you didn't know what Josh Heupel could do. Now he has the number 11 team in the country. He's got a quarterback. I can't believe these stats. Shane Matthews and I were marveling about it this morning. Could it be right? 42 touchdown passes and 2 interceptions?
Sounds about right. He's he's a really nice fit for this offense, Josh Heupel's offense. Josh Heupel needs a running quarterback, a quarterback who sometimes can make plays on his own. Hooker can do that, but he's not a gunslinger. He's very careful. Sometimes people criticize him for being too careful, but he's not gonna get his team beat. You're gonna have to win the game without a lot of help from him because he's really protected the ball well.
Tell me about this team. They've got some wide receivers in trouble. I read where Callaway won't start the first half. And tell me about I hear there was a question asked of a defensive back yesterday at the press conference. Tennessee says they have the best wide receivers in football. What do you think? And his response was, well, we'll see. How good are those wide receivers? Which ones will be available? And what do you expect in a production standpoint of, I know they don't live on the past, but certainly it's a big part of their game.
Yeah, it's a crucial part of their game, buddy. You look at Tennessee's receiving core. I haven't thought many times in this series that Tennessee had the best set of wide receivers, but it clearly does, in my opinion, this year. Cedric Tillman, we don't know his status. Josh Heupel is tight-lipped as any coach I've ever seen on injuries. That seems to be the trend. It's more popular generally now among coaches. He had a lower body injury, so I don't know. But even if he can't play, Tennessee has a couple of really good receivers in Jalen Hyatt, who's having a breakout season in the slot. He's big, fast, not really your typical slot receiver. He can beat a lot of people deep. And then Brew McCoy, transfer from Southern Cal, is about 6'3", 220, and has decent speed, but he can go up and get the ball and is very physical and can break away from DBs who might be trying to jam him at the line of scrimmage. That's what you have to do. You need cornerbacks who can jam those receivers up at the line of scrimmage when you're facing Tennessee. Not a lot of teams can do that, though. So that, to me, the main thing about Heupel's offense, and this reminded me of Steve Spurrier in his early days at Florida. It just seemed like receivers were always open. And sometimes multiple receivers were open on the same play. And that's what we see repeatedly in this offense. Heupel's system gets people open, and he runs that up tempo. He spreads the field and forces you to cover the entire width of the field. And then he'll come back and run the ball on you when you've got the middle thinned out. He's a really, really good offensive coach, the best offensive coach Tennessee's had since I've been here, for sure.
Wow.
I've been here since '87. But this system works against everybody. And if you don't have a really talented defense, you're going to struggle preventing these guys from getting open, and also from preventing Tennessee from making big plays with the running game.
Talk about the running game.
Well, we don't know if Jabari Small will play, but Jalen Wright ran the ball really well, albeit against Akron, which is one of the worst teams to set foot in Neyland Stadium in my time here. And there's a freshman, that Dylan Sampson. The coaches were really impressed with him early on and in preseason, and he's got a lot of speed. I think he's going to be a really, really good running back, and you'll see a lot of him too. And Tennessee likes to try and get him out in the open field because he does have great speed. You don't look at Tennessee's running backs, and there's no Najee Harris, but how many teams have a runner like Najee Harris that played for Alabama a couple of years ago? But this is, again, it seems like a system that really works. and they run those plays really fast. One thing different about this year than
Every
last,
18 seconds, according to what Napier said.
yeah, here's the difference. So, buddy, last year, and I don't know if this is by design because 2 of the 3 games have been blowouts, but Tennessee hasn't run as fast consistently as it did most of last season. And it may take. I look for it to pick up the tempo against Florida because I think Florida's depth quality
Yeah.
is questionable.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, but the main thing about it, and you'll see it Saturday. I'm expecting you'll see receivers open, and Heupel likes going deep ever so often too.
Yeah. Excellent offensive mind, as you said. Well, yeah, you know about Florida's defense. They don't have a lot of depth. And they do have some really good athletes in the secondary, and they're well coached. But whether they can keep up with a track meet with Tennessee is doubtful. What do you know? What are you hearing about Anthony Richardson and his problems?
Wow, I've watched Florida in every game this year. Going into the game, I viewed Anthony Richardson as a tremendous athlete. I think everybody does, and he runs like a 400-meter sprinter. He's got those long strides, legs churning really fast. But man, watching him as a quarterback, he looks lost out there. I don't know. I think Billy Napier has a really structured offense. He's just a structured guy. Everything about him in his program, it was that way at Louisiana, and he likes a running quarterback. But I don't know if Richardson is a structured quarterback. I think he's the kind of guy that you like to turn loose and let him try and create plays.
Okay.
And watching him against South Florida, buddy, I just thought his body language, he looked as though he had lost his confidence.
And he said so the week before against Kentucky. He admitted he lost his confidence. So that's not a good sign. Now, can you coach a guy out of that? Questions asked, how long do you stay with a guy that loses his confidence? Well, there is no backup. I mean, there's Kitna, but he's got no experience. Jack Miller has been out with an injury. So they're in a dilemma. What do they do? They've got to get the ball to their wide receivers, get the ball in his hands, and Anthony Richardson's hands, and he's got to use his legs some. But they have not been successful. How good is Tennessee's defense? We'll continue that conversation with John tomorrow night's program. How good is Tennessee's defense? We'll continue on tomorrow night the program. Outstanding lineup of people. Right now we're going to go to the Orange and Blue Room now and see what's going on there with our good friend David Moulton. Orange and Blue Room brought to you by Main Street Community Bank of Ocala, independent FDIC insured, locally operated, full-service bank offering a broad range of financial services. Come visit our new office in North Magnolia, beautiful downtown Ocala, Main Street Community Bank of Ocala. Community is our middle name. And to the Orange and Blue Room, and here's a guy who can answer all those questions. What do you do with a quarterback who's lost his confidence? Is everybody's just saying now there's going to be a beatdown? Florida has little or no chance to escalating spread. It was 10.5 last time I saw it. Who knows where it is now? David Moulton, good evening to you, my friend.
How you doing, buddy?
Doing all right, my man. You still batching it?
Yeah. I'm stuck in a hotel room with bad lighting, so I've got a lamp right in front of me here.
Okay, all right. Thank you for efforting. We don't have your handsome face on the screen as what you do, but we got you. That's what's important. How you doing, my man?
I'm good. I'm intrigued by this. I mean, this game has gone 4 touchdowns from last year. Florida was a 16-plus point favorite last year, and they're a 10 to 11-point dog this year. It's remarkable difference a year makes. And you were asking the question rhetorically, what do you do with a quarterback that has lost his confidence and is struggling in the passing game? Well, you earn your coach's salary and you dial up something early that can get somebody open so that they can complete a big play passing, hopefully a touchdown, and then all of that stuff goes away. I think it's incumbent on Napier early to dial up a pass play. I mean, the best damn play that they think they have, and run it very early and get a big passing play, preferably a passing touchdown, And then Richardson and the passing offense, they're off the hook. They can take a deep breath and they can just play. And, Tennessee's played one quality opponent this year. I mean, it is important to point that out.
Very important.
That was Pitt.
Yeah.
And it was a very even game. I mean, plays were 83-77 in favor of Pitt. Yardages were within 5 yards of each other. Pitt held Tennessee to around 400-plus yards. What Pitt did defensively, though, is they challenged those receivers, buddy. They played a lot of man. And that's how Narduzzi plays defense. He thinks that's the only way to do it. So, and I understand that that's a gamble. But I don't think that Florida can sit back against Tennessee and think they're going to stop that offense. I think
now with a quarterback like Hendon Hooker and the way he's on a hot streak and he didn't throw interceptions, the numbers we talked about. And David, I've said this before, and everybody's got an answer, and I've said this kind of lovingly and sort of critically, but they're experts everywhere. And I repeated this: everybody knows how to do three things. All right. Start a fire, right? Certain way. Run a restaurant, right? And call a football place. They're all experts at those things. And you'd be amazed at the comments I've been reading this week. And I get fans, okay, it's all right to kind of be unhappy and expecting more, and that's kind of what it is. I know there's some of the half-cocked comments I hear, sometimes I think, what? What universe are they living in? But that's okay. Fans got to learn. So we're all experts now. I asked Shane Matthews, who knows a thing or two about calling ball plays, what he thought of the play calling. He said, I have no problem with Billy's play calling. Okay. I said, okay, we've got Anthony Richardson. He's lost his confidence. Shane was shocked at that when he said he's lost his confidence. And I'm going to throw this over to you after I finish. I said, okay, so you're the offensive coordinator. We're going to pay you $1 million. Go in there, and what do you do, and how do you get receivers open? He said he's had receivers open. He just hadn't been able to hit him. I said, yeah, and some of that, I don't know. I hear there was being hurt and all that stuff, but even Shane says, this is football. You get hurt. You got to play through it. So now, what you're saying, David, you draw up the game plan. Shane, draw up the game plan. And he said to me, we're going to have to run the ball. Yeah, I get that. It's funny hearing someone say Florida has to run the ball and play defense to win. This is not how they win at Florida usually, but I get that. And he says, Anthony's going to have to use his legs. Okay, I get that. He said they got to run between the tackles or run the quarterback power. I said, what? Quarterback power? That's sure way to get your quarterback hurt. So he knows a lot about football. Shane's a smart guy. He's going to be coaching the XFL quarterback coming in Orlando here this next spring. Now, knowing what you know and hearing what you hear, what do you think Billy Napier ought to do, and what do you expect to happen? And you're right. Give him something he can complete early. Get the ball. See the ball, like they say in basketball. Go through the hoop. See the ball, call, whatever. You're the coordinator, David. What do you do?
Well, like I said, in the first two series, I would dial up my best pass play or my best trick play, and I would hope to hit it, and then get AR and get the offense and everybody off the schneid. But ultimately, buddy, Florida is the third slowest tempo team out of 131, and Tennessee is the fifth fastest tempo team out of 131. Mm-hmm. I mean, both teams essentially are going to be what they are. Mm-hmm. So what does Florida have to do? They have to run the ball very effectively. Keep Tennessee off the field. And here's the other thing to keep in mind. The pressure's on Tennessee. The longer Florida can drag this game, the more 102,000 start murmuring, and the less they play Rocky Top. The other thing, however, to keep in mind, this is Florida's first road game. And they've got a young team at a lot of spots. And I got to ask you, because Richardson started one game last year. Was that home or away?
That was Jacksonville.
Okay, so it was neutral field. He started the Georgia game. Got it.
Right.
So this is his first true road game. It's another reason why Napier and the staff really need to deliver something for him early. because he's never played in an atmosphere like this before. So, but yeah, if Florida's going to win, it's because they're going to run about 20 more plays in Tennessee, and they're going to run the ball for 180 to 220 yards, and they're going to do it slowly. And Pitt nearly pulled it off. Now, Pitt threw for 200 plus, but also ran it for like $150 plus. I don't expect Florida to throw it that effectively. So, they're going to have to win. I heard the piece of your interview with the gentleman from Knoxville in which he talked about the great Tennessee upset of the 0-1 Florida team in which they were a 17-point underdog. And how'd they do it?
Right.
Travis Stevens running for 200 yards. I mean, if Florida's going to win this game, they're going to have to run it down Tennessee's throat in all likelihood, because that's what they've established they are. And in theory, that's also where their best players are. All right. If you want to argue what's their strongest unit, I'd argue running back, or I'd argue offensive line. So play to your strengths. And Tennessee has not really proven that they can play run defense at the level that Florida can run it when they're on their A game. So if I'm Florida, I hit something big early, and then I shove it right down there. You know what? That's the game plan.
Well, what is that something? Hit it early. What is it going to be? I propose a throwback pass. Look, I don't know. I'm just guessing like everybody else who wants to know how to start a fire and run a restaurant. I'm thinking find a way to get the ball back in Anthony Richardson's hands besides making it a quarterback power. I can see Trent Watermore throws a nice pass. He's all right. You could pitch it to him on a jet sweep or whatever the play you want to call it. Throw it back to Anthony. Any way you can, get him the ball in open space and give him a chance. I still don't know why they haven't been able to do that tight end bootleg. People seem to know that's coming. That's a great play for him. It's RPO. It works well. He can either throw it or keep it, and he's got single coverage. Anyway, those are my ideas. Not much I know, David, but what do you got?
Well, in theory, Florida's receivers should not see a whole lot of double coverage. I mean, the attention's going to be on the quarterback and those two running backs.
Mm-hmm.
So there should be a lot of single coverage or soft zone coverage. So in theory, a receiver's got to win a one-on-one battle, or there's going to be open spaces there, and you need AR to hit some guys. But, I mean, they should be able to throw the ball early in this game. I mean, Tennessee's got to be keying on the running game. Got to be.
Well, but they're going to play. They're going to play a soft zone. The book on them after the film is Kentucky and Mark Stoops and the dropping 9 men. That's what it's been. That begs for what? Dropping the ball in the zones, in the creases, whatever. Running the ball when you can, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't know how they attacked it. I mean, usually you have a tight end in the crease. You can't throw the ball deep really well, and I guess a 9-man secondary. But they got to throw the ball deep.
Not playing, but buddy, they're not. No one's playing a 9-man secondary on first down. All right. In theory, the big passing plays can come on early downs.
I agree. Mm-hmm. I agree.
I'm third and long. I'll be honest. If I'm Florida, 3rd and 7 could be a running down.
And it has been. It was late in the USF game. They're running the ball, and they should have been throwing it, in my opinion. But look, I don't know. Let's just say, are you okay with Billy Napier's play calling?
Yeah, I think in some ways the worst thing that happened was the Utah win, because then people said, "Huh,
yeah,
oh, look how good we are."
Well, it's fool's goal. I know what you're saying. It's fool's goal. Yeah, I agree with you.
Well, and Kentucky looked at the tape and said, "Well, if we let Anthony Richardson in that backfield just dictate how this game's going to be played by running the football, yeah, they're going to be a really good team. But if we take that away and if we keep the quarterback in the pocket, then they're probably a little different team." I mean, I'm sorry. You tout all their players. They don't have a wide receiver that scares me at all.
Florida?
They don't. Yeah.
No, I mean, Pearsall's the best that they got. They haven't thrown the ball.
Okay.
I mean, you don't have to have all burners in the zone. You got to have guys sit down.
No. But what I'm saying is that clearly this quarterback is not above average yet throwing the ball. Well, his receivers are barely above average also.
But
So
Shane
the
Matthews,
pass,
okay, but Shane Matthews tells me he had open men, a lot of open guys against South Florida.
well, buddy, what do you want?
I don't know. I'm just asking. I'm just telling you what.
Quarterback.
I'm not. Well,
Well, obviously, buddy, the quarterback has to complete passes to open receivers.
of course.
If he doesn't, you're going to lose. I mean, at some point the guy's got to play. But in theory, we all have, listen. How many of us play golf? Okay, and if you do something good early in a round, you've forgotten the last 2-3 rounds in which you shot 95. And all of a sudden you go, you know what? I'm an 84 golfer today. Look at how I'm hitting the ball. Holy crap, I birdied 3. I never birdied 3. Okay, and that's why, especially first big road game, not just of this year, but of his career, and Napier and his staff have to earn their money in the first 30 minutes of this game. And I mean 30 minutes of real time, not game time, real time. They got to produce something. So that Richardson's got a big smile on his face coming to the sidelines like, Coach, you said it'd be there, and it was, something like that. Whatever Richardson's favorite play is also. Every quarterback's got a favorite play. All right? And sometimes a head coach or an offensive coordinator just says to the quarterback, hey, if you had to run one play for a first down, what passing play would it be? And he'd say, well, I like, and he calls out the play. And you go, okay, well, tell you what, that'll be – the Giants opened up their first Super Bowl that way. Sims had a good week of practice, and midway through the week, Parcells said, you like that play, don't you? And Phil said, yeah, it's my favorite play. And Parcells turned to his offense coordinator, Ron Earhart, and said, that's our first play of the game. And sure enough, they ran it. And, helped Phil go 22 of 25. And so that's all. They just do something early, good, that they haven't done in the last 2 weeks. And then the last 2 weeks get forgotten.
Well, it sounds pretty easy. You've been doing your show. What kind of feedback have you been getting from people regarding Anthony's? I mean, there have been some really dumbass comments. I got to tell you.
Well, here's the deal. If you have no alternative, if you're unhappy with Anthony Richardson and tough, you've got nobody else this Saturday. And I don't know if you're going to have anybody else the following Saturday.
Well, he said
so
the injury report came out today, and he said he's not inactive, Miller. By the way, the good news is, I got to bite someplace, is Ventrell Miller is upgraded, but only to questionable. And I think that's a key thing, too, there. So, yeah, I agree with you. You don't have a guy to put in there. You got to live with what you got, right?
Yeah. I mean, and besides, half of last year, the same people that are banging on AR now were banging the table going, why aren't we playing 15?
True.
So just play them. Also, this is, and I know fans don't want to think this way, but this is the first year of a multi-year journey with Billy Napier. I mean, he's going to play Richardson and see what he's got. And then he'll make a decision near the end of this year as to whether or not Richardson's the future or one of the other guys backing him up is or somebody else out there in the portal is.
Well, the good news is excuse me. Go ahead.
It's not like Florida's going to have trouble getting a quarterback if they need one.
Right. The good news is he's not going to be drafted in the first round this year. So there you go.
Yeah, probably not the second either.
Yeah, for sure. Well, he's got a skill set. I don't want to see him give up on Anthony Richardson. I think he's a major talent. He can still play at a high level. It's just you don't have a lot of time to go to school when you're playing ranked teams every week, I
mean, that's the other thing. Florida's played the toughest schedule in the country. When the Tennessee game's over, the first month of the season will have come and gone, and Florida will have played the toughest schedule in the country. Mm-hmm. Now, if I had said to you big picture before the season started, this Florida team, which is probably 30 bodies short of where Napier would really like to go to battle with. This is a thin roster and a largely unproven roster. All right, that this team would go 2-2 in the first month or possibly even 3-1 playing the toughest schedule in the country. All right, I think you'd go, wow, coming off last year? Yeah, okay, I'll take that. Okay. I just think that And you asked, by the way, where the Gator fans that I talked to,
Yeah,
where they
what?
are.
Yeah, where are they?
It's the two extremes. It's the holy blank, Utah was a fluke and we are screwed. And then it's, come on, it's Tennessee. We always kick their butt. This will be one of the sweetest wins we've had in a long time. It's one of two extremes.
There is a history of Florida football. I know I'm reaching a little bit on this. Over the years, I can go back to the last 60 if you'd like to. We talk about it. And I believe in the theory that when the pendulum swings so far one way, I believe in the old, for every action, what's that, Newton's law? For every action is equal and opposite reaction. And I think this team is not as bad as Florida is they're making him, and they're betting on the fact that Anthony Richardson is going to fold for 106,000 people. I've heard some ridiculous comments, by the way. One of them was made by Brady Quinn, who says, well, I've been to Neyland. I played there. It's really loud there. He's never been to the swamp. He's never been to Death Valley. He's never been to Tuscaloosa. He's never been to Athens. Yeah, it's loud in Tennessee. It's loud most places in the SEC. So the crowd situation, it's a factor, but it's all about, as you say, giving the guy some ball plays, seeing him make good decisions, putting a little touch on the passes, whatever, and of course running the football and playing defense and special teams. Tennessee is not Alabama. Let's be straight about that, okay?
No, they're not. And that's why some early confidence for Florida would go a long way to shake the last 2 weeks off and get these guys feeling the way they did when they played Utah. Yeah. And remember, the pressure is on Tennessee. There is no one on that sideline that has ever beaten Florida.
Right.
Game day is there. They are expected to win this game. They are expected to be undefeated now when they play Alabama on October 15th. So Florida can use all of this to their advantage if they can get into the game. The thing that does concern me is styles make a fight. Florida's style is perfect to beat Tennessee if they can play their A game. Tennessee's style is perfect to blow out Florida if they get their A game going.
So that's what you're predicting?
No, I never predict a blowout when these two teams play.
Okay.
All right, but what it does concern me if I'm Florida. I'm not a deep team defensively. I thought I got worn down late against Utah. Unfortunately, made the play in the end zone to save the game, but really didn't stop them much the last third of the game. Didn't stop Kentucky much in the second half either. Physically got worn down up front, got outplayed in the second half by South Florida also. Tennessee runs a play every 20.5 seconds. I'm really worried I'm going to get worn out in this game defensively. The number of snaps, I feel, is a really big stat in this game. Really big. Like, it's one thing for Florida to punt, but it's another thing to 3 and out and punt. A 6-play drive that leads to a punt, an 8-play drive that leads to a punt. You've got to protect the limited bodies you have on the defensive side of the ball, because if Tennessee gets it going a little bit, you can get worn out pretty quickly.
So you're laying the points?
Whew. Where are we going with? We going with 10? We going with
10 and a
half?
half.
We going with 11?
Let's go 10 and a half. Take your gift. I'll auction it off with you, okay? 10 and a half. 10, take or leave.
I would probably lay the points. I'm worried that Florida doesn't have much left in the tank in the fourth quarter.
All right, 10 and a half.
Yeah, I think ultimately Tennessee will win and cover. I'll say it again. I'm concerned about Florida in the championship rounds, if you will, in this fight. I think they can be okay in the first 8 rounds of the 12-round fight. I'm worried about the latter part of the fight.
Okay. We've got a couple minutes left. We've got to talk about a man who is one of the 3 people in the world to hit 360 home runs. That amazing thing that Judge has done. and he's still got time to go to catch up to do 61. Is it not getting a lot of play around here? As it there where you are?
Yes, but only in the last few days. Most people don't buy into the whole, they don't care American League record versus National League record. But it's a big round number, and they marvel at the fact that, wow, this hasn't been done very often. And most people think he's clean, so they think, wow, this is a hell of an accomplishment. I have to admit, I don't want to say I'm more impressed, but right now, if the season ended, he'd win the Triple Crown.
That's the thing. He's a hell of a player, yeah.
I mean, he's having a historic season, and I don't just mean in terms of home runs. He'd be the second right-handed hitter in the last 10 years in the American League, but he'd also only be the second person in the last 55 years to win the Triple Crown. I mean, that's pretty damn remarkable.
It's remarkable. When you talk about all those guys in whatever the season started, the MVP and whatever, he wasn't getting the love. Other guys were. But he's had a fantastic season. Poor Rays can't get arrested. They lost again tonight. They just can't seem to get it going. And two of their star players got in a fight in the parking lot yesterday. So that didn't go well. Rosarina and Yandy Diaz. So
yeah, the good thing though is that Baltimore's collapsed and the Rays are going to make the playoffs.
They'll be in the playoffs.
Right. And even if they fall back to the 6th seed, they'll open with Cleveland. Well, they can beat Cleveland. They match up fine with Cleveland. And then once you start getting going in the playoffs, it's just like the football game we were talking about. You start getting a few things going, everything else moves to the side.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, the Yankees, the last time in the dynasty that Joe Torre's Yankees had, when they won 4 out of 5, take a look at how they finished the 2000 season when they beat the Mets in the World Series. They lost, I believe, 6. They ended the season, I believe, losing 16 of 19 and won the World Series.
Yeah. Correct, Joe, my friend. All right, so here's the deal. What size are you? Shirt. Small, right?
Small manatee, yes. I'm a small manatee.
You're like me. Do you get your clothes made at Omar the Tit Maker?
Right. In fact, a friend of mine is a basketball coach, and she said to me, she goes, hey, I want to send you a shirt. Okay, what size are you? And I said, tarp. So, somewhere between M and T, buddy, in your Gator bait gear, that's about where I am.
Well, there's our merchandise, which Rebecca did a great job on. And there's a woman's on the right there. There's some shirts, and we'll look around and find you something. I'm trying to get you a cup or two or something when we get it. We're up operational now, and I got to get the link right. It's jersey-ink.printavo.com/merchandise Gatorbait. Now, I know that's tough. I'm going to try to put it on the screen so people can see it. I know. But I mean, we're kind of in our infancy here with this. It's been open for a while. There's some of the gear, and I'll try to get that up for everybody.
I like it.
And, so, David, where are you going this Saturday?
I'm going to Knoxville.
Oh.
Looking forward to it.
Well, you can be our wingman up there. We'll look out for 2 of our guys. Lauren will be there covering along with Kyle, his first big road trip, and the rest of us are staying home and watching on TV. So make sure you get Daniels's information right, will you?
Well, I usually do.
Yes, you do. You do a great job. I'm only kidding you. I enjoy it. I'm a Gary fan. A lot of people are not, but I am. So, all right, my man. Appreciate your time. Have a good weekend. Enjoy. You got an NFL game this weekend?
Monday Night Football, Cowboys and Giants. So
boy.
I'll sneak home Sunday morning, have dinner with Mom. It'll be good.
Yeah. When are you moving?
Well, my wife and mother-in-law are already in Jacksonville.
I know.
I'll join them right before the cocktail party.
All right. I must have been thinking about you last night because I had a dream. I told Johnny. I dreamed I was off for one of my long road trips. I used to go, baseball playoffs, the World Series 2 weeks at a time. And I said, I had a dream last night. I was covering something. And I said, I was away gone for a long time, and I never heard from you. And I couldn't get a hold of you. You couldn't get a hold of me. And I thought after 2 weeks, I wonder if she still lives there. You know, you had those moments when you've been gone so long. You have to call, I have the story, the classic story is my friend who was gone so long when it happened. He got home when he went to his home airport in Denver and walked up to rent a car. He forgot he lived there. So it happens. David, have a safe travels. Really appreciate your time. I know it's busy weeks for you when you're traveling. I thank you for spending time with us always. And I've got some good news for you. I got a little something working for you here. You'll hear about it soon. We might be able to set you up for a meal or two at Spurrier's. We get nothing free. We're gonna buy it, but we're going to see to it that you get down here, and we'll pick up the tab for you. How about that? Does that work?
Wow, that would be awesome.
Anything up for $10, man? It's all yours. Just go. David, look forward to the broadcast, and look forward to talking to you next week. Thank you very much.
All right. Good night, everyone. Take care.
The great David Moulton joined the program. Appreciate it very much. All right, so now there's up there at the top left is the link. I'm having a hard time getting those links. I want to be sure and talk about my friends over at Red Star Medical Research. And here's why. I got a call from a good friend today. You would know his name if I mentioned it. He said, what about that study they're doing over at Red Star on psoriasis? I'd like to see if I can get in there. And I said, well, I will call and find out if they're still doing it, or you can go to renstar.net and look it up and see. And I'm going to call this week and talk to my friend Joe over there and say, is that still open? Because there are a lot of things like that people deal with around here that in our area that are, where certainly we got issues of things like, we had one on, let's see what we had. We had several good ones around here. Migraine headaches is a really good one. We've had one on, let's see here. Yeah. Anyway, I'll get the list of them. Something called hidradenitis suppurativa. I've never heard of it. It's a chronic skin disease. They do these studies, clinical studies, a lot. And they've done well over 600, maybe even 7. And it's a local place here in Ocala, but their data goes out to the pharmaceutical companies. And they use that to design prescriptions for us so we can get them. So here's what you need to do. If you're interested in this particular one, since my friend called me about it, psoriasis, I believe it's still going on. I have to check on it. Of course, it's a common condition. It's not life-threatening, but it is painful and difficult. And if you've been diagnosed with plaque-type psoriasis and you want to explore some new options, you could be eligible. You're between the ages of 18 to 75, and you're diagnosed with plaque-type psoriasis and don't have any other major skin conditions, you might be able to see a dermatologist at no cost, have access to trial medication, and also receive compensation for time and travel. The best way to do is log on to renstar.net, look at their clinical studies and see what they are. That'll be listed. Or you can call them at this number, 352-629-5800. 352-629-5800. Renstar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. We didn't get the Urban Meyer bite. Where's my mind today? The Billy Napier bite on tonight about the injuries, but we'll get it on tomorrow night. He simply said that Ventrell Miller is upgraded to questionable, so they'll need him. I thank you to our special guest tonight, John Adams of the Knoxville News Sentinel, Tony Barnhart of TMG, and of course David Moulton. Appreciate you and all you do here. We'll say goodnight. We'll put the pictures of merch up again and say have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow night on the Collective Corner with some special guests. You want to be sure to catch us right here on the Buddy Martin Show.